Wow. Okay. Tat tat tat. Is this the right mic? Sure. Mic. Check, check, check. Come on, man. Let's make sure you're the right mic. Uh. How do I make you the right mic? Let's find out. Let's find out. 1 2 1 2. Hold on. Hold on. Very soon we'll be getting started. All right. Better. I just want my mic to be the right mic. How do I do that? One. Wow, that's pretty annoying. All of this is going to be there. Hey, whoever just popped in. Man, this is quite difficult. Whoever's out there, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Because in a second, I'm just going to begin. In just 1 second. Input. All right. It says it's the right mic. All right, here we go. Okay. Welcome to Nothing But Anarchy, episode number 100. We have a few things to talk about here. I already did in the last episode. I already did so much as hi Morgan. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let me see. Okay, and is the audio good? Okay, 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. All right, great. All right, cool. I already did in the last episode some housekeeping as to let you all know that this will be the final episode of what we're calling season 1 of this show. This is episode number 100. It is, I think last week was a year to date since we started, but this is the 100th episode. We have a few things. We're going to do we're going to do what we do here, which is go through a few things that felt particularly interesting to us here in the show. And then I'm going to give a couple reflections on what it has been to do a year of this show, 100 episodes. And then I will give you all some information on how to stay abreast when we are going to circle back for season 2, and also just to keep up with what I have going on outside of here, because I'm about to start doing a couple other things as well. So, all right, here we go. I'm looking for my docket. This is also my first time trying to do this show as my own producer. This is a fun full circle. I mean, Morgan is here now. She's in the chat. But I was trying to get myself set up on YouTube Live and realizing just how inadept, is that a word? I guess I'm making it a word. Unadept I am with YouTube. And I guess I'll just start there. We started the show because we had an opportunity that landed on me. Melissa Ingram reached out, said, "Hey, what are you working on? Would you want to do a show about this, or this?" And the third this was sports. And the NBA specifically, I think, was a target area for AMP at Amazon before they crushed it. And man, it's funny, actually. I'll do a quick off road on that one. I've now been a part of a few things in different places that have gotten crushed. I went and worked at a tech startup after I worked at Google called Dev Boot Camp. And we were a 19-week coding boot camp for people who wanted to transition their jobs, for people who wanted to go from whatever it was they were doing, making money that wasn't feeling right for them, to become software developers during the tech boom. So we were coding boot camp. We had locations in San Francisco, Chicago, New York. I was the head of expansion and new products. So we expanded to a few other cities. I tried to get us going in Berlin. Couldn't really figure it out, but I got to live out there for a few months, which was awesome. Long story short, Kaplan bought the company. And I want to say within 2 years, the company was gone. I left after Kaplan bought it, but not long after I left, the company was gone. Last year, 2 years ago, I think at this point, actually, I went and wrote for the show Rap Shit. Rap Shit, as many of you all know, was sort of Issa Rae's baby after Insecure that she executive produced and created. Hired a team of writers, including myself and a few others who I've talked about on this show. One of which was Kid Fury. Shout out to Fury. I went and saw Kid Fury stand up. I think it was his first stand up of the tour. Maybe there might have been other legs before this, but went and saw his stand up in Brooklyn over the weekend. He was kind enough to comp me some tickets. I actually had 2 tickets, and he comped me 2 tickets. I didn't realize that. I thought he only had given me 1. I would have for sure invited somebody to come with me, because I think I would love for a bunch of people to go out and check out his stand-up. He is talking about, hope I'm not spoiling anything or breaking an NDA here, but he's talking about how depressed, in so many words, he became over the last few years trying to navigate, among other things, Hollywood and entertainment. And spoiler alert, it drove him to attempt suicide at Coachella last year, around this time last year. I think he said April. And he does it with levity. He does it with humor. He is like I got to see the Kid Fury / the Reed audience live and live in color. So I got to see like the people who came out. That was really a fun experience for me too, was getting to watch what kind of people connect to Kid Fury. And I had an epiphany about audiences. I had an epiphany about entertainers, comedians, singers, rappers, let's call them avatars. And I would say, in some way, I am developing into, or have developed into, that sort of figure for some set of people. I think that I had an epiphany, and I'm often late to the party on stuff like this, but I had an epiphany that the person standing on that stage is not just entertainment for the people in those seats. They are in a way representative of and for the people in those seats. They're a mirror for the people in those seats to themselves. And I saw that in Kid Fury's audience. I saw a crowd of people who looked like, felt like, laughed like, ruminated like what I've seen in Fury. And I don't know Crystal at all, and I don't know his co-host on the Read, Crystal. I don't know like what her vibe is, besides having listened to the show a couple times. And I think probably she is that also for many of the people I saw there in that audience. And that's a special thing. That's like that thing that we always talk about, representation. I felt in that room and I was offering it up. It was passing through me too, but I felt the sort of gratitude and gravity, and the like, just the energy people were trying to throw back up to Fury on that stage to say thank you for being here with us still and for staying in the fight, and please stick with it. Please stick with it. So besides like the humor and the writing and just like the way that he pieced the story together, and also just like his ad libbing, the way that he can improvise on stage, the way that he's like, he brought things that were extremely current to the point where you knew that they couldn't have been written days before that performance. Besides all of that, which I thought was very strong, I felt inspired by getting to watch somebody connect to their audience in a way that felt so palpable. Like it was it had such a fabric, the connection between them. Anyway, back to the point. HBO Max or HBO, whatever you want to call it, they killed Rap Shit a year after Rap Shit fired me. There was something else that I was a part of that got canned that I was thinking of. Oh, I mean, my BET show that never made it on the air. My first baby, my Archer, my very first baby, which I almost published in my new book. I'm publishing a different screenplay in my new book, but I almost published this thing in my new book because I just wanted people to read it. I wanted people to see what got me out here, what gave me my start in all of this, what got Spike Lee to notice me and others, and what I thought was going to be kind of my, I guess like my career vehicle that would launch me into this thing. And in many ways it did, but that got canned. I mean, I've said this before, but I was in a relationship that didn't work out recently, a very serious relationship. I was on a high school basketball team that went to the championship and lost. And, I can go through a list of a few other things, especially in adult life and especially in my career, where I was a part of something and, maybe after a season, Direct Deposit was not renewed for a second season at Audible, even though it was a prestige darling. It was the only Audible show nominated for the two biggest awards at the Ambies last year. It continues to reverberate in culture and people who I never in a million years would have thought would have listened to that, because I didn't have thought they would have found it on Audible, listened to it and told me what they thought about it. But like that thing got canned, and like, or at least season 2 of it got canned. I own the IP, so it's never over till I say it's over. But here's a point I'm trying to make, which is this constant cycle of starting 100, 1,000 different things, because that's what this job is. You start 1,000 different things. You go on my notes pad right now. There's 1,000 different things that I want to get going. Maybe I give 10 of those enough water and energy and thought and resources to become, I don't know, a post on Instagram, a conversation with a potential producer, a few words in a Google Doc. Maybe out of those 10, 2 of them actually materialize into something that somebody else gets to experience, somebody else gets to watch or listen to or look at or read. And out of those 2, if I'm lucky, one attracts the audience, the resources, the team, the schedule, the people putting things aside in their life to prioritize it, both the people who make it and the audience. Maybe 1 out of 100 of those, out of 1,000 of those in my notes pad, maybe 0.1% get to have life in the way that this show has had life for the last year. And more times than not, Dev Bootcamp, Rap Shit, Direct Deposit, whatever, more times than not, somebody else gets to make the decision about whether or not 1 year is enough. And the most important thing, like the most special thing about this process for me has been learning that we can build something like this. We can put it down to rest. And if and when we decide to, we can pick it back up to continue. And that's kind of like, that's been, if I'm being honest, that's been the biggest life lesson for me in the last few years, especially the last year, which is that all these things that we attach our identities to, all these things I attach, every time I take on a project and it means so much, I tie a little bit of myself to it, a little bit of my identity to it. Every time I form a relationship, a friendship that means so much to me, a piece of myself, a piece of how I see myself is attached to the health and existence of that thing. And the big learning for me in this last year has been like, all of these things ebb and flow. All of the things come and go. But like, the life is the thing. Like the whole life, the whole series of cycles and patterns and relationships and connections made and trying and failing and hurting from the failing and getting excited again about the next thing. Like that's the thing. Like that's the thing that has been, that's the thing that I am right now having to sit still with, which is difficult for me and accept, is that like there is no place, there is no point where you turn the paper in and get a grade. There is no, you can't get an A because it's every day. It's nonstop. It's waking up in the morning and doing your chores, feeding your dog, taking her on a walk, working out, talking to your colleagues, doing your fucking taxes. It's nonstop. There is no end point like there is for these projects, for these companies, for this whatever. And I think like I'm learning that finding joy in that stuff is the thing that's going to sustain me, to let me keep doing my job and make art for as long as I want to. Okay. Well, that wasn't what we came to talk about. So let's talk about what we came to talk about. First, sips coffee. How's that? Unpleasant? Okay. All right, let's talk about J. Cole. Ready? Let's do it. So, J. Cole is an artist who I am not a fan of. I think he is a talented rapper. I think he has some insightful things to say. Although, like most rappers, I think, like most people who garner a lot of attention, I think he sometimes says things that are commonly understood, but the delivery is the thing that, you know, is what attracts people or an audience to reflect on it or to say that it's special. Let me get to the point. J. Cole entered himself in some ways, I would say, into a rap beef with Kendrick Lamar by walking around recording for the last couple years and talking about how he's the best person out there rapping, which, as far as rap is concerned, as far as like competitive sports or art forms are concerned, that is as well as saying compete with me. To say I'm the best is to say prove me wrong, I think. I think that's what it points to. Words, I think sometimes say things, and other times they point to other things that could be said. And when you say I'm the best, what you're pointing at is to say, and none of you guys are as good as me. Obviously, that's what the best means. And Kendrick Lamar decided to take the challenge accepted. And he said, all right, cool, let's do this. That's what he said on Future and Metro's album that came out 2 weeks ago. He said, come on, let's do this. With a verse on like that, he said, let's go. He said, let's get it, boy. I think those were his exact words. Let's get it, bro. That's what he said. Okay, let's get it, bro. And that means let's get it. I'm about to go play basketball after this. You go to the basketball court, you shoot for teams, everybody's stretching and getting ready, whatever, blah, blah, blah. At some point, somebody says, okay, y'all, let's get it. Like, let's go, let's bump. And that is the signal that means we will all be frenzies again after this. But for now, let's do this. Let's find it. Let's see who's better today. Let's see who is the best today. That doesn't honestly mean you're the best forever. It doesn't mean as time unfolds, we will look at it all differently. No doubt. There was a time when a lot of people thought Nas won his rap beef with Jay-Z. Now there's people, most people I think believe Jay-Z won it because Jay-Z went on to have the bigger career that continues today. I mean, they're both still making music, but time will change the way that we look at these things. But for now, like today, Kendrick was saying, let's get it, bro. Let's see who's really like that. That was supposed to be the beginning, the opening, the unfolding of, oh, great. These guys are going to make great music and spar. Kendrick, Drake, J. Cole. And I thought I was well within my rights to believe it would be great music because the first song that really launched this thing was Like That, which I believe is still number one. And it is, in fact, a great song. It's a song that I have listened to several dozen times since it came out. I have only listened to J. Cole's diss of Kendrick Lamar 2 times. And those were on the day that the diss came out, which was on Friday. J. Cole released a surprise album. And the last track on the album, last track, maybe that was the penultimate, can't remember, is a Kendrick Lamar diss. That's what it is. He makes fun of Kendrick Lamar's discography. He says his canon is lackluster and that he doesn't make enough music and that he's too short to fight or to reach J. Cole and Drake and that he's boring. Oh my God, J. Cole called him boring. I thought that was particularly unself-aware for J. Cole to say that someone else's music puts people to sleep. But also while doing so, he said in so many words, pretty specifically, like, I don't want to do this with you. While in the verses, he's saying, I don't want to have to fight you, but I'll do it because you threw yourself out there. You threw me out there. You said, we're going to do this. You said, let's get it, bro. J. Cole comes back on Sunday night, I want to say, at his own festival on stage, sitting in a chair. And he says, paraphrasing, I wish I had not put that track out. I wish I had not dissed this guy. I love this guy. This is my guy. He's great. Don't you guys think he's great? He says, don't you guys think he's one of the greatest artists of all time? And everybody cheers, blah, blah, blah. He's big up in Kendrick. And in so many ways, I've said it too many times today. He was retreating. This was a retreat. This was, I have put this track out there to plant my flag. And now I'm taking my flag down because I don't want to, as he put it himself, he has not enjoyed living with knowing that he has entered his entry in this beef, in this sparring, in this back and forth. Like, he doesn't like it. He's not feeling it. It hurts him. He's not sleeping well. These are his words. Not sleeping well. He doesn't like getting texts from all of his friends talking about, what are you going to do? Do you want to do something to him, et cetera? So he doesn't like having his phone blow up with people. Also, I'm not going to lie. I think it's kind of crazy if you are like somebody's, let's say, if you're somebody's like seventh closest friend or even 10th closest contact, I think it's pretty crazy if you see someone get thrown into something like a public spat like this. I cannot relate to the person who would reach out and be like, "Yo, are you okay? Do you need anything?" Because to me, that I'm talking about the 10th friend. Now, if I'm somebody's fourth closest friend or first or seventh, even that makes a little more sense. But once you're like talking about the third or fourth ring of the circle, the outer, it is crazy to me that somebody that is so obviously someone trying to salaciously enter your space to get a firsthand look at your anguish so that they can say to their friends and remember later on, I was there. I was a part of the J. Cole thing. But anyway, it's a digression. I just think that's crazy. That's weird as shit. The internet, the podosphere, the blogosphere is full. It's a wash. It is overflowing with reactions to J. Cole retreating or trying his best to from this sparring. Here's the very first thing that I want to say. And it's important because at the end of this, if I have some time, I want to talk about things that I have learned from this first 100 episodes of doing this show, this first 100 episodes of self-producing something of this size. And you guys might say, I don't know how you guys see this thing. Honestly, that has been a real learning for me is people don't know how other people see them. We're going to talk about Zendaya. Yes, we're going to talk about Zendaya and what she says about being cast as a high schooler over and over and being happy to finally be cast as an adult, as she said, because as she said, which is ironic because she didn't even go to high school, which I thought was funny. But first thing I want to say here is, and this was actually a point that TJ Theo brought up to me and Ashil. This is a learning for me, and this cannot be understated. We all know in theory that everything is promo. As far as publicly issued statements and actions and social media behaviors, it's all promotion for something. It might be promotion for people to follow you. It might be promotion for a project you have coming out later. As I think through everything I'm going to be doing from now until February when my book comes out, now some of those things are going to be artistically pure because I have an interest and I think there's something cool that I can make or curiosity that I want. There's a skill set I want to build. There's a curiosity I have. There's something that I want to offer to the audience. But it does not lose me that the context for me along the way always is I want to continue to build the audience. I want to continue to strengthen my connection to the audience to understand what they like and what I can offer them. And I am going to be selling a product very soon, a book. And so in that regard, everything I do, whether I like it or not, everything that I do publicly is in some way promotion for that book. It is going to affect the outcomes of whether or not people are going to buy that book. And the outcomes of whether or not people buy that book are going to be important to the outcomes of what I'm able to do next, what kind of resources I have to do what I need to do next. That's obvious. Maybe. I don't know. Sometimes, even if something's obvious, it's nice to just lay it out there so that we can look at it. But TJ made the point that it cannot be dismissed, that it cannot be forgotten or overlooked, that J. Cole put this diss track out. It got people like me who do not care about J. Cole to go listen to J. Cole's album. I have never, and I probably will never again, I have never listened to a J. Cole album the first day it came out. Never. I think he's got 7 albums. I have never pressed play on one of those albums on day one. I have probably never pressed play on one of those albums on day 2. I think for one of those albums, the one that came out maybe like 2 years ago, I listened to it within the first week. But by and large, me, the J. Cole non-fan, but the hip-hop fan, I am not on time for a J. Cole album ever. And that track, because I woke up with texts already from my friends saying J. Cole responded to Kendrick, and that Kendrick response happened to be on his album, that got me to go help run his numbers up. So that was very clever, J. Cole. Now, that in and of itself dilutes what was going to be, and I'm glad Tweez pointed it out because I would have overlooked that. That dilutes what was going to be my overall feeling, which I'll get to here as point 2 about this recantment, about this retreat that J. Cole just did. My point was going to be this. I know that this is against the rules of rap. I know that what J. Cole did was against the rules of rap. You are not allowed to put out a diss track dissing someone that you're in an active rap beef with and then apologize and say, this was bothering my emotions too much. I don't want to be part of this. You're not. And you will be docked points accordingly. And those points, I believe, should come in the form of we should not take, and this is a very grave indictment on a rapper specifically. We should not henceforth take seriously what it is that you say to us in your rap music, because you have now proven to us that your conviction is shaky. Your conviction wavers. The words you're saying may not be words that you believe in and that you want to stand behind. And that is, in my opinion, an extremely damning indictment on a rapper who brands himself as being real and transparent and always telling us the truth. And so he's going to pay the cost. He's going to pay the tax on that in career ways, no matter what. There's almost no way around that as far as I see it. But what I was going to say before Tweez reminded me that the putting out of that track was a ploy of marketing and capitalism, I was going to say this, man. Sometimes what is good for you and what is good for sometimes what's good for you, the person, and what's good for you, the career, and what's valuable or even placating for your audience, sometimes those things are at odds. And you have to choose yourself. I think this goes for every single human being. And let's take audience out of it. Let's just say what you want and what people want from you. Sometimes those things are at odds. And you have a choice to make in those instances. You can sacrifice yourself, or you can sacrifice the trust that you've built with someone else, because you are changing your mind in a way that is going to destabilize them, and it's going to throw them, and it's going to make them feel misled. But that's what you feel. That's where you're at. And you live with the consequences. J. Cole might have slept much better that night. And sleep, as I read in Tools of Titans, Tim Ferriss's book, as said by some other philosopher, I don't know who he was quoting, but like sleep ultimately isn't that ultimately the goal of all of this? He might have slept better that night. And he may have paid for it by pulling the rug out from under his audience and from us, his non-audience, which I bet he's fine with. Now, Drake seems to be someone wired as the incredible opposite, where it feels like Drake has, this is what I see when I see Drake. It feels like Drake has abandoned himself entirely to constantly give and produce what he thinks people want from him. so that they will give him back money, attention, clicks, sex, opportunity, power. And it is a nonstop cycle of him making that trade. And at this point, I don't know who the person is under there at all anymore. And J. Cole chose the opposite. I can say 100 different things about him looking weak, about him being a punk, which is what I've seen people say, and much worse. But what I can't say, even though he did fray the trust, what I can't say as he sat in that chair is that I can't say that he didn't look like that he looked uncomfortable with his choice. I cannot say that. And he chose selfishness. He is not going to give us the rap beef that reverberates. We'll probably get that from Kendrick and Drake. That would be my estimation. But J. Cole says, I'm not going to participate. I'm not a circus clown. I am not going to give you guys what you want just because you want it. It's not working for me. And as much as J. Cole is the rapper who I do not even like out of the three of these guys, that is, I think, the thing that connects him to the every person, which is that's the choice that I think most people honestly would sit well with if it were them in that same predicament. People are not built for long-lasting feuds and tension. Those things break us apart. They hurt us. They're the antithesis to the point of this whole thing. So in that way, I am not going to judge J. Cole, the person, for what he's done here. But I don't think I will ever be a J. Cole fan of the music. Okay. Lastly, Morgan wanted me to tell you all she supports J. Cole and his choices. And isn't this what we want from people? I'm paraphrasing. I hope I'm not misquoting her. But isn't this what we want from people, is to be vulnerable and apologize when they feel that they have misstepped? Okay. Last thing here. And I did this in reverse order. I think I actually did the learnings from the show first and then J. Cole. And now we're going to go to Zendaya. Had a catch up last night with a famous person, and I signed an NDA for that catch up, and so I cannot speak specifically on it. I signed an NDA. There's only one part of that conversation that I think is relevant here, which is that people don't know how they are seen. There's complete distortion between the way we see ourselves, the way we think other people see us, and how people actually see us. And I think sometimes we keep that distortion there on purpose, because when we get too close to seeing how other people see us, it is extremely uncomfortable. Have you ever accidentally read or been sent a text about yourself that was meant to be sent to someone else about you? That is an example of this phenomenon. It is so, no matter what, whether good, bad, or otherwise, more often than not, it is uncomfortable to see the tone, the language, the point of view that other people use when they are talking or writing or speaking about you, and they think you're not present, which is why we're not supposed to have that information. Now, Zendaya says, hold please. Zendaya says in a Vogue interview, quote unquote, I'm always in a high school somewhere, she says. And mind you, I never went to high school. So to break away from that was refreshing. And it was also kind of scary, because I was like, I hope people buy me as my own age. A couple things on that. That is in reference to, I believe, Dune 2. and also Zendaya's history of being seen as a kitty. Zendaya's, I think, much younger than me. I don't know how much younger than me, maybe like 8 years. I don't know. But what I can say, somebody says happy 100th, Chatty. Thank you. I don't know who that is, but thank you. What I can say is I also have that thing where people think I'm younger than I am forever. Frankly, I think a lot of people of color have that thing. I think there's like some level of actually, I don't even know. Let me not try to make this some sort of social commentary. It's either just that like our skin looks good for a long time and our features look young, or old people be looking wrinkly and old. And it's probably the combination of both. But as a result, people always think I'm younger than I am. But it's weird because they also often think black teens are more adult. They are treated more as adults than usual. So there is race stuff in there. There's racism in there. But regardless, here's my point. You don't get to choose how other people see you, no matter what you do. And I came into this show. This is a full circle moment. I came into this show wanting to make something that had the sort of, I wanted to make something that was able to grow, but that had like the, almost like that little like sheen of the things that are quote unquote like real, like official, like, this is a real show. We do this in a studio with microphones and cameras and lighting and all these other things. This is real. This is real. And as real, you got to spend money. You got to have sponsors. You got to have AMP attached and Amazon. You got to have an executive producer over there who you got to run things by. Like, that's what real is. And the cycle, like the evolution of doing this show and making it this far to 100 episodes of this thing, has taught me the lesson that like sustaining, being back every Tuesday and Thursday, pushing forward, doing an episode even when you're broken, doing an episode even when you cannot show up as the sparkly thing that you're trying to portray, like that's the value. And it's a full circle moment for me because I'm sitting in this room right now with a ring light, a microphone, an input device, two big ass lights right here in my home studio with my MacBook Pro, which is broken, hooked up, like the monitor is broken, so I can't see anything on the monitor, hooked up to an external monitor on top of a sound pad and two boxes so that it's like eye level. And this is a home studio situation. And this is the thing, I'm gonna be real with y'all. This is the thing that I wanted to push against. I didn't want to do it like this. I wanted to do it fancy. And as we did it, I started to realize every day there was another sign poking me, telling me the value is not the fancy. And the rest of the world is trying to tell me that as well. Like, one day Jake Paul is going to be the fucking president. Y'all going to be mad, but I said it right here, okay? One day Jake Paul is going to be the president. And somebody else out there who would intern in the White House and got their PhD in political science and human studies and did all the right moves and paid all the right money to like grow through this channel of blah, 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 prestige and paperwork and yada, yada, yada. Like, that person is going to be working for Jake Paul. And the sooner that I can actually like live in that truth and believe it and acknowledge. Now, I don't mean that acknowledge like that we need Jake Paul people to be president, but more specifically that prestige value is not value. Like, value is value. Giving somebody something that they want when they need it every time when they look for it. Like the sooner I can actually, I have had such resistance to that idea. I have pushed back against it so many times in so many ways. The sooner that I can fully digest it, I think all of this grows in a way that will be meaningful and impactful for myself and many, many, many other people for a long time. And so that's what I'm going to be working on during this break before we come back with season 2. Okay, last thing. All right. Happy 100th episode to Morgan, our phenomenal producer. This show very literally does not exist without Morgan's energy, vision, tactical execution, kindness, thoughtfulness, creativity, intelligence, spirit. That's the number one draft pick. I've said it before. That is just a great person. And I'm very thankful for how her family has also embraced the show and supported. And I'm so glad that I will get to continue to work with producer Morgan on some other things. So that. Also, I wanted to mention, I said 1,000 gazillion names last week who have been listening to the show, but I also wanted to add to that list my cousin Rachel and my brother-in-law Wesley. It's so indicative, the way that you can thank everybody in the world and overlook your actual family sometimes. So sorry about that. And I really appreciate you all being supportive of this thing. Rachel, I am thankful for, as someone else who I didn't mention in the last time we were sitting here, who's listened to so much of it. Tim, did I mention Tim last time? Whatever. Okay, not whatever, but like I'm trying to remember everybody as if I'm giving an Oscar speech. But this is really has made it fun and a community to do this thing. What I'm going to be doing moving forward from here until you see me again on this platform is starting pre-sales for my book, which will be a lot of promotion. And I'm also going to go take myself to do some, I want to get behind the camera a little bit. And so as a means of practicing that, I am going to be out doing some man on the street stuff. Not literally, but like out in the community, out in my world, doing some very, very short form interviews with people, like incredibly short form, to get myself in the habit of, framing a shot, finding beauty, trying to pull out what is special about somebody in a very short amount of time, because I have an idea for something that I can build with that, that I think is going to be interesting to people. And then I'll be on my Instagram nonstop, as I already am. So talk to me there at Chad Sand. This has been Nothing But Anarchy, episode number 100. Love you all. See you guys soon. Bye-bye. Well, that was anticlimactic because I don't know how to end this. Jeffrey Lee. Jeffrey Lee is someone else. I thought I said Jeff Lee's name last time. Jeff Lee, David Atkinson. And also, please continue to like, rate, subscribe everywhere. Also, share. Here's the beautiful thing. End with a song. I don't have a song. The beautiful thing about media is it can continue to grow while you sleep. So please keep telling your friends about all 100 episodes of this show that exist. Okay, how do I end this? Morgan, how do I end this? Here we go. End stream. Bye-bye.